Hello and welcome. This is the fourth episode of Behind the GM's Eyes. Today with a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a crossover with On the Sideline. I mean, this is at the end of the day, this is all going to be about the decision making that Giants did in this offseason, especially in the draft. But I'm like, yeah, there are going to be some, let's say, twists that could be like, if they went this way, what that could have mean in terms of their flexibility of calling their defense. Okay, spoiler alert. Well, I will start this by saying that I am probably higher on this Giants team than a lot of the guys are. I think their defense is potentially very, very good. Their defensive line already is one of the best, if not the best in the league. And Russell Wilson for 10 million, I know you say he's my boy, and he is. I absolutely like Russell Wilson. But at the same time, for 10, 12 millions, whatever his contract is this year, you don't tell me that's not a value. And like him and Malik Neighbors, if this offensive line can stay, this team could just be enough of pain in the ass for causing some havoc. The problem is, they have the toughest ass schedule in the freaking league, which is nasty. When you consider that this team has picked number 3 overall, that this team could have picked number 1 depending on tiebreakers. They would have picked number 1 if Drew Lock did not suddenly have his best game of his career, like week 17 or whatever it was. It's like having the toughest schedule in the NFL is just brutal. So, with that being said, I'm excited to watch this defense. I'm excited to watch Russell Wilson. I'm excited to watch Malik Neighbors. The other part of the offense, not so much, but there are some positives there. Obviously, Andrew Thomas, if he can stay healthy, is one hell of a tackle. Now, I feel like they've created really, really nice defense. But when I was looking at this team and really rethinking what they could have done, I was like, gosh, they could have made an absolute monster of this defense. And I'm going to show you how. And especially when I was doing my head coach carousel, when I'm like, who could be the next head coach if Brian Daboll is going to be fired this year, which I ultimately think is going to happen, though I would not wish it to him. And I believe he is a good head coach for the New York Football Giants. It would be Brian Flores. And the idea of Brian Flores with even better constructed defense that they've already done. Oh God, it just, I felt like, wow, I mean, what am I talking? Let's just show you guys, okay? So, what are the moves that they could have done differently in the offseason? It isn't much because they invested heavily into this defense, but could they have done a little bit more? And I'm like, yes. And that little bit more would be Jihad freaking Campbell. And that would mean not going for Jaxson Dart, because in that case, there is no way you could land Jihad Campbell unless you would sacrifice way too much of your future. But when I was looking at the draft picks and thinking about the scenario, I definitely do believe that with the Bills' history of trading out of the first round, recouping some picks, and Maxwell Hairston, whom they actually picked, not necessarily being the guy that everybody is standing in line to get, I feel like Bills at 30, they would be happy to trade with the Giants because A, it most likely screw some of the plans for the Chiefs or the Eagles, and B, I don't really see anyone trading up for Maxwell Hairston. I don't think he was on the board for Philly, for sure not. For Chiefs, most likely not, especially with Josh Simmons on the board. So I definitely think 30th pick for the Bills was available for the trade, and the Giants, that if they have not made a trade for Jaxson Dart, they would be in a position to, hey, this is our 34th pick, so we are moving 4 spots. And I'm like, when I look at the trade value that last year Panthers had to give up to move up 1 spot for the Bills, Chiefs had to give up to move up, Eagles had to move up, give up 1 spot to give to the Chiefs this year, it was around 4th round, 5th round, somewhere like that. So move 4 spots here. 3rd next year, I would say is the top of the proposition. I feel that's possible to give up, especially when you consider they give up for this year and for next year to move up 8 spots more to get Jaxson Dart. And I feel like with Jaxson Dart, it was always about the premium that they kind of had to pay because everybody knew they were moving up for the quarterback. So I feel like for next year, is the price that I would be willing to pay. And I think there might have been some subtype of haggling that would be like, it might have been only like fourth this year, because I think the added bonus of screwing up potentially the plans for the Eagles or the Chiefs, I think those are nice bonuses for the Bills to perhaps take a lesser offer. Now, what they would have done, and it is my dream world, with this 30th pick, would be Jaxson Campbell. Let's get this out of the way. Why they move up for Jaxson Dart is try to save their ass move, try to like, hey, this is a young QB, we show we can develop him, and we try to prolong our stint here, both GM and head coach here. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, I understand. I don't like that pick. I don't like that process from like top to bottom. I don't think it's the right process, truth to be told, but I get it. It's the general like feeling how you can save your job. This could be it. So I get why they didn't do it. I don't like it, but I get it. But hear me out. Let's say they would not be about that. That would be, okay, let's put the best freaking product we can this year, because Jaxson Dart is not a guy that's going to save your season this year. Most likely. Most likely. And if so, not with Brian Daboll, because it would probably require Brian Daboll to get sacked, or like they really shitting the bed first couple of weeks for Jaxson Dart to just get thrown to the wolves. Now, I would be like, okay, let's put the best product out there. Let's try to save our jobs this way by actually being a great football team, which they, I think, could be. And, let us worry about what we do with quarterback in next year's draft that is much more stacked. Or, given the quarterback situation actually ended up this year, they would be definitely like the prime team to just spend their 4th or 5th round pick on Shedeur Sanders. I'm saying that's from the hindsight, that would be like absolute crazy nice for them, because you have to some even better prospect than Jaxson Dart to potentially develop, and you could execute this other plan. But that's with the hindsight, right? Like nobody expected Shedeur Sanders to move past day 2. So I'm not going to use that in this example as that would be super special. I think it would, but it was not necessarily something you can count on. But I would be like, okay, I will do this in 2026. I'm caring about actually winning this year as much as I can. And bringing Jaxson Campbell into this, I felt it could be the missing piece, or one of the missing pieces for this defense to transcend from really damn good to freaking elite. And imagine what you can do with this front 8, let's say. And hear me out. So you can line up in 5-1, meaning Brian Burns, Dexter as your nose tackle, Darius Alexander as DT, Abdul Carter as another DT in terms of, or he's not necessarily DT, but you can definitely use him there, and Kayvon Thibodeau from the right. That's 5-1 front with Bobby Akirike behind these guys that absolutely can work. They should be absolutely exploring this possibility, because when you have, and imagine Abdul Carter next to Brian Burns, in the middle of Dexter Lawrence, you have to double team Dexter, and then it's Brian Burns and Abdul Carter are getting one-on-one, and they can absolutely shift their positions. How do you freaking defend that? So that's actually already a problem. So I'm super excited how these guys can be deployed. But why I would actually bring Jaxson Campbell into the mix, and why this could be really freaking exciting, is how about 4-3 front, in which you have Dexter and Darius, Brian and Kayvon as your defensive line, and Abdul and Jaxson Campbell both playing as linebacker. And let's not forget, Abdul Carter was a linebacker for pretty much his whole career. It was just last year when he moved more towards the edge. And the thing with him is, he can definitely still play linebacker, but you are not taking linebacker further overall. I get that. But the versatility that you would get with him and with Jaxson Campbell is both of these guys can blitz your ass off. And when you put Bobby Akirike in the middle and these two guys next to him, you have so much freaking versatility, because both of these guys can blitz the shit out of this offensive line. You can absolutely see where the help is sliding for Dexter Lawrence. So if it's on that side, Jaxson Campbell goes. If it's on the other side, Abdul Carter goes. Like, how do you freaking defend that? And the other possibility with this is like 5-1 front with Jihad Campbell instead of Kayvon Thibodeau, in which you are thinking about, well, either Abdul Carter or Jihad Campbell can absolutely drop into the coverage. So, like, you know, I'm like, imagine this, because like, when I'm talking about this, like, I am imagining the possibilities. If Brian Flores would lead this defense next year, it's not imagining. This dude would be like, this would legit have potential to be absolutely game freaking wrecking defense. Because give this to Brian Flores and dude, like, you are effed. You are absolutely effed. So, you know, like, I can see some of the possibilities that this versatility of Abdul Carter and Jihad Campbell gives me. The fact that you have to double team Dexter Lawrence, otherwise, like, he's going to eat your center alive. He's best nose tackle in the league, and it's not close. He's, to me, top 10 non-quarterback player in the league, and it's not even close. Like, I would probably have him as top 5. He is that freaking insane. And imagine having next to him, like, Brian Purse, who's already, he would be the best guy on like 10 to 15 teams. He's here too. And you have Abdul Carter and Jihad Campbell, who has so much versatility. Kayvon Thibodeau has actually like start to look really good ending last season, and high and rookie in Darius Alexander. With Bobby Okereke as like really steady hand behind it. And not forget Micah McFadden. He's suddenly not becoming as important because you can use Jihad Campbell and Abdul Carter there, but you know, for 300 or 400 snaps, when you use these guys across defensive line for different type of coverages, you can absolutely do with Micah McFadden. And, you know, I can definitely envision one of these guys perhaps taking up on a tight end in terms of coverage when it's like more of Jonas Smith role, when the guy is not excellent round blocker. Then, you know, you can match him up with Abdul Carter instead of your slot. But that's like perhaps even crazier, but like I think that could absolutely work. And like looking at this, I mean, I'm already excited about this, but adding Jihad Campbell into the mix and really have much better potential in my eyes to have a 4-3 front in which, like, with Micah, he's a solid player and he's solid blitz threat, but Jihad could be absolutely on a different level. And, you know, like, and even like if Micah is really good, like, imagine that you actually can rotate these guys and like you never freaking know. It's like, okay, so it's Abdul Carter and Micah McFadden, so they won't blitz Micah McFadden. And I'm like, I would not be so sure, guys. I would not be so sure. And I'm like, oh my god, oh my freaking god. Like, that just like so freaking excited about the possibilities. I am already excited about this group, but adding Jihad that would just give me these opportunities. Oh man, I think like that could have been good. And also you would screw the Eagles up, so that's an added bonus. Now, how this would reflect on your secondary, because that's also a part of it. Because, well, at the same time, could be like if you were about like 5'2" and actually not using your nickel and try to like somehow sneak Abdul Carter on the second tight end if he's not the blocking specialist, and perhaps make him play more of that, like Kyle Hamilton role, but from the linebacker converted to edge. Like, it's kind of weird, but I think in case of Jihad Campbell and Abdul Carter, they have absolutely enough athleticism to make it use. That has one problem. And one problem is your, at this point, second best guy in the secondary, which I think is Drew Phillips, is nickel. So what would you do in those fronts with Andrew Phillips? And, well, thing is, perhaps you would sit him, which I would not like, but there's definitely potential for him to play outside. I think he can do it. Like, I'm actually kind of damn sure he can do it. But, like, it's like absolutely a luxury that you can have. It's like, okay, perhaps he's going to sit. Perhaps, like, with his body frame, we don't want him out there for 40, 50 snaps because he's playing like a maniac. He doesn't play towards his weight and height. Like, he's freaking awesome. But, like, perhaps we want to, like, lower the chances of him injured. Like, use him in terms of matchups because, like, he's smaller, he's quicker. Those guys are bigger, stronger, but perhaps less twitchy. And also, well, as our number 2 outside corner behind Paulson Adebo, who is very solid one, all right, he would be really great too, and here's like solid one. You have Deonte Banks, who so far they ask him to be one. That's a problem. If he can be a solid two, great. You also have Cordell Flott. And in this scenario, there was, I think, potential if you have not spent that third round pick from next year in, trying to chase the Jaxson Dart. There could have been a package in which you can move up to get Shavon Revel, who actually Cowboys get at 76. You would have like that 95th this year, so perhaps 95th and I don't know, fourth next year, 6th this year, and we can move up to Shavon Revel, not necessarily with the Cowboys, but slightly ahead of them. Perhaps that would have been the case. I'm not sure. This is kind of a luxury pick. I'm not like saying this have to count on it, especially with like the possibilities of those guys actually like playing without the nickel, in which case I would definitely try Andrew Phillips as my outside corner, and I would have Drew Phillips, Deonte Banks, Paulson Adebo, Cordell Flott. I do definitely believe that between these four guys, especially when I trust in Adebo, but like he has health issues, I can have two absolutely solid outside corners, especially when, like, how are you going to protect yourself against this freaking pass rush? So I can do with just good corners. I don't need special guys. Like, special guys would be really nice, but that's where signing of Javon Holland comes in, because he could be what you had in Xavier McKinney, what Packers actually got in Xavier McKinney. Really the guy that's like strings this all together, like absolutely lifts the floor, can be a huge weapon in terms of like you are throwing bad throws because you don't have time. Javon Holland is there to make you pay. So, I mean, Shavon Revel is luxury pick here. I don't think you necessarily need him, and especially in cases like in which you would experiment with like using Abdul Carter or Jihad Campbell as your star defender and putting Drew Phillips outside. He's probably a luxury that you don't necessarily even need to. But I don't think he would come abyss here, especially like Deonte Banks versus Shavon, like who is your second outside corner, and we count with Drew as a nickel. Now, I have not, like perhaps you would be like, okay, but how do you keep this together? And I'm like, well, you actually are keeping it together, because for all of these guys that I would be talking and I was talking about is they are obviously signed for 2025. All of them, with one exception, are signed for 2026. That exception is Micah McFadden, a guy that you could use, but don't necessarily freaking need, especially if you draft Chad Campbell. So I would love to get him back for like, I don't know, 2 years, 10 million, which I think is absolutely, reasonable. Like he would resign for that, I think. And as the kind of your third linebacker here, I'm absolutely willing to pay him, especially with the fact that he can blitz. So like him next to Bobby, next to Jihad, like that versatility I would like to have. So this is not necessarily taking up a lot of money. So 2026 is absolutely taken care of. And it's not ending there, because for 2027, imagine Micah would get like 2 years, 10 million. So there are only two more players out of this that are not signed. And those two guys are Kayvon Thibodeau, who is like, well, depending on how Abdul Carter as an edge, Jihad Campbell as potential edge, like depends where you want to use these guys. You perhaps don't need him. And, at some scenarios, you can get real nice compensation for him. At worst, you get like a compensatory pick if somebody else signs him. But that's like 2027. You have him for 26, and, for 2027, you could have him back, but I would imagine you would trade him. And it's like, you would be okay with that. It dings you, absolutely. But we are talking about Abdul Carter in year 2 or 3, Jihad Campbell in year 2 or 3. So at that point, Kayvon is kind of a luxury that, if you can get some picks back, you would take that. And the second guy is Deonte Banks, who I'm like, again, if Shavon Revel is here, he's kind of a luxury that we most likely don't need if Shavon Revel is the guy I believe he's going to be. But if Deonte Banks like earn this position, okay, there is still 50 option that we can pick. So theoretically, he could be signed towards 2027. But at the same time, again, like Cordell Flott is here, Drew Phillips as an outside corner in some of the fronts, veteran guy, like those are not the guys that this defense is absolutely standing on. Those are like number 8 and number 12 or 13 in terms of value. So for 3 years, you would have this group together pretty much unchanged. And just like, I started to watch NFL properly with Legion of Boom, with my Seattle. And I'm like, I remember that defense. And I think like, this could be potentially even better. And I mean, I love the defense. I love Cam. I love Richard. Like, God, especially with Brian Flores. Like, this could be an unstoppable force. At this point, it still could be one of the best defenses in the league. But with the small changes that I would make, I'm talking about potential legacy defense. The defense absolutely worth of a nickname. In those next 3 years, they could take league by the storm. And I feel like that versatility that Jihad Campbell would give you, and potentially like Shavon Revel as an insurance policy towards Deontay Banks not working out, etc., etc. Whew, guys. Let me know what you think. Did I sold you on this? Would you do this the same? And do you think I'm like absolutely crazy to thinking that this is the defense that would warrant a nickname with Brian Burns next to Dexter Lawrence, next to Darius Alexander, next to Abdul Carter, next to Kayvon Thibodeau, with Jihad Campbell, Bobby Okereke, and Micah McFadden, backing by the secondary of Drew Phillips, Paulson Adebo, Deontay Banks, Shavon Revel, Tyler Nubin, and Javon Holland. Not to mention, you actually have some decent depth in like Chauncey Golston, Robertson Harris, Darius Massaud, Dane Belton, and Cordell Flott. Like, there is some depth for this. What do you think, guys? Let me know in the comments. And, well, buckle up. The league is going to start damn soon. And you will find your daily content of NFL here. Have a nice day. Bye.